Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jose. Um, I'll tell you more about my stuff later, but I do micro astrology. I use over 150 asteroids. So, but what I wanted to talk about today is, there's the elements. We all love the elements. It's like a combination of all that stuff. By the way, I wanted to say that actually there's two things. Just a bit of a heads up. I'm going to mention this again and again. I'm planning on opening up a specific circle for you guys so that you can actually practice astrology. Okay, so just a heads up right now. I'm kind of opening things up for people. If you're curious, let me know. Drop a comment down below. But I wanted to talk about one thing. I was just watching this video with what's his name, Stefano and Ferrari, going with their last names. um, and they were talking about how everything is a perception. Yes, because what we perceive, I'm looking for a rhyme, a word that rhymes. What we perceive believes, if that makes sense. The point is that because everything is a perception, it's based on um, the formation of what we were born with, the dominant perception. Astrologically speaking, or at least elementally speaking, based on the elements, the traditional elements, the four elements in Western philosophy, right? Fire, earth, air, water. And we can also include in Eastern philosophy, the wood and metal. Sure. The point is that because everything is a perception, if you look at it from the perception of just the four basic Western classical elements, um, it's, it's like perception to someone who is fire, for example, who identifies with lots of fire in their chart, for example. The stereotypes like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Perception is going to be seen as something that is always going to be rooted in inspiration. So perception is going to be rooted in something that has to mean something, that has to be forward moving, that has to be about change, inspiration, intuition, freedom. That fire element, you look at fire, the way it works, right? It likes to consume, it likes to it likes to feel warm, it likes to act, it likes to move, it likes to continually do things, right? It's not so much about doing anything, it's just about there will always be this. Its fire is consuming and therefore it's always regenerating. It's always going to go and it bursts and then it dies, bursts and it dies, right? So it's a very transformative energy, transformative element. So it's not going to be attached to perception that are unlike the earth element, which is perception that is reality, and what is reality is through physical things. It works hard at forming things. It's very drawn to attach. It's I would say the earth one is more about attachment. So the way I'm seeing it now is like, look at the three earth signs in astrology. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Out of all of them, though, Taurus is the one who is going to be really going to say, "This is real. My hands are real." Right? Virgo, yes, but it's more up here. It's more about attachment to cleanliness, um, getting things pure and clean, and health is important. So it's very attached to health. It's very much like perception is through health, perception is through service. Um, uh, and then Capricorn is perception is through success. Perception is achievements. So if I don't succeed in this, if I don't make something of myself, reputation, I believe it's also, but it's also more about getting to a specific thing. It's all about goals in mind. Um, Again, success, vocation, career, it's very much driven towards that. Then you look at the air. Perception is based on, it's all very airheady, right? Gemini is the one that's very, very flexible. Um, and then you have Libra. perception is still air, but it's more about, it's always about connection. That's air, really. It's about connections, right? It's just, it's designed to start to connect. Once it starts to, once it's understood that there are things beyond earth element, which is solid, it goes into releasing that, but it's more about my relationship with you, right? So Gemini is you and me, but it's like, how are we do, what do we do with information, right? Let's get the facts. It's all about, mostly about the facts, information we can use, learning. uh, Libra does that too, but Libra is cherishes the relationships that is in front of them. It's really more about the actual connection itself. It's the bonds that come from that relationship. It's gone through, but it's also about like going past the information and seeing, okay, why is that information important to me? How can I connect with you? It's about transmission as well. Same with that air. And then it goes to marriage, towards marriage. It goes towards like, ooh, yes, this is love. But a bit more than Taurus though. So Libra is a bit still drawn to the physical world, but it learns to let go. It learns to, because it just wants harmony, it wants peace, it wants like, Libra just goes like, I've seen it all. What's more important than relationships? The bonds that we create, right? Aquarius amplifies that into the bonds that we create with everyone else. And with like beyond the bonds of humanity, beyond the actual physical form. And he wants to do that. So perception there is all about, how can I make this work for me and you and me, you and us, we and us and you, us and me, all that stuff. Then goes into the water, which is much deeper connections, definitely much deeper connection. It's learned from air. And so the perception is through connecting at a real physical bond. So emotions is really expressed, emotions is processed, and never ever wanting to leave that. If you look at the elements themselves, like earth is attached, it's very much drawn like water, except earth, there's still boundaries with it. Solid elements kind of might clash, right? It kind of stems from that fire thing, where it's just like once it's solidified, it's like boom, it's already done. Right, boom, boom, solid, 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 solid. Air is complete opposite of that. It's like there's nothing. Let's just mold together in air. That's why air can either be warm or cold, because it adapts to temperatures. Water is always going to be cold, but cold because it wants to go back to its primordial self. It wants to go back to its primordial essence. If you look at space itself, it's actually cold. Space is cold, right? It's frozen. It's cold. Um, I heard that light is also cold. I'm not really sure. It's weird. He's like, "How is light cold?" I thought that was warm because we're thinking about fire. Um, but the essence of light, I believe, is cold, which is funny because it's like after water comes fire, right? But with water, I believe that water is all about everything that it experienced, and it wants to formulate everything and bonds through all that experience. It's almost like the summer of things, summer, like summing to sum things up. So I feel like water is that element. So perception of water is always going to be about the emotional ties. Again, if you look at water on its own, so air is adaptive, but water is, because it's thicker than water, it's dense. Water actually attaches itself. Like, I don't know if you learned this, but when during the pandemic, they said like the best way is one way to use soap, like to clean up like viruses and all that stuff, right? That's how you break down these these little things. So, but water is the one that is attached to that. Water is the element, the liquid is the element that goes, it's attached to one thing, it's attached to one thing. So there's something about attachment molecules, right? H2O, right? Both of them magnetizes. There's something about magnetizes. It's funny because it's kind of tied to the moon. So if you look at, all that stuff, I just talk about the moon here. I just talked about it. So, it's tied to cancer. So let's see. So when it comes to perception of cancer is always, it's much deeper connections and siblings. It goes into the family life. It goes into connection. Emotional connection is very much like, let's solidify myself. Let's solidify like me and you, just like what it learned from Gemini. And it's this thing where it's like, but we need to take it at a very, we need to have a light approach to it, but at the same time, still meaningful. It's still very deep because it's more about how do I fit in with this emotional connection? How do I keep you in my shell? How do I keep you in here? So perception to Cancer, all you got to do is look at the Americans. Any country that is where the sun is Cancer, it's very much drawn to, or if it's in the first house, it's drawn to that connection. It's very water. It's like it's like just observe water how it is. It clings onto walls, even if it's pouring down. It clings, right? Sometimes you want to dry off your hands, but it depends on where you are. Like where I am, it dries up, but it doesn't mean that water has disappeared. Right? It's still there. There's still moisture in the air. In fact, there's this episode from one of my favorite TV shows. It's by Nickelodeon, The Last Avatar with Aang, the first series, not the one with Korra, where there's an episode where Kitar learned about blood bending, and there was an old lady. She said, "You have to look. You have to look with deeper than your eyes, or something. Like water is everywhere." So she goes like this, and when she captures like these things and turns into like kind of like fingernails, she makes it sharp, and she goes whoosh, and she flings it to the tree and becomes like these frozen ice kind of bullets, like ice bullets. It's very cool. Anyways, so water is everywhere. Just like any element there's fire in it, in this, all of that stuff. Fire is through combustion, right? But fire can be when you rub your hands, that's heat, right? But that's all comes from your body, right? There's heat everywhere too. So all the elements exist literally. And there's actually an episode 2 in that show where they talk about, we believe that they're separate, but they're not. Just like you and I are not separate. We just have different varying characteristics that look separate, that give us the perception of separate. Um, Going back to the whole thing with the other water elements, like Scorpio is the one that's really, 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 really about control, right? It's the same thing with water. Same thing with Pisces. Pisces wants to attach itself unconditionally, so much so that it's almost like it attaches itself so much to love of everything it's learned from Aquarius, of everyone, that it's like we all are love, we're all attached, but at the same time, it feels the attachment so much that the opposite actually happened. It's like, but I have to let you go. And that's where the wounding kind of comes in a way, to a certain degree. The emotions come in. It's just like, okay, well, I'll let you go. But that's why you see the fish. There's like the fish attached to the fish, right? It's still water attachment. So perception to these waters, the water element is attachment in an emotional, deeper, much deeper level. Actually, I would say primordial level, because water knows that once it goes to fire, it will be reborn. So it has to die, right? There's a reason why in astrology, the three houses, fourth house, eighth house, and 12th house, are all referred to as the houses of endings, because that's water. But the greatest perception of all is the fact that there is perception to be had in the first place. Right? I need to feel like I need to have this. So I bet you the greatest release we could ever have as anything in any universe at all is to release that perception. But we're not there yet, linearly speaking. Okay. So, anyways, I just thought I'd share that because I was just like, oh, what is, oh, okay. So Stefano said, we all perceive things differently. Well, yeah, but I wanted to tie it to astrology and I thought it was like really cool. So, anyways, thank you for watching again. I hope that was insightful. Any comments down below? Type it in. I know it's a little far-fetched sometimes, but this is part of having fun with astrology. This is part of what I find. It's like, oh, everything can, for me, at least in my perception, everything can be seen through astrology. I would say almost literally everything. That's very cool, right? So, anyways, many other things. So, anyways, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Oh, and please like and subscribe. I will see you later. Oh, and watch out for my notice about opening up a circle for you guys. You'll see ahead of time. But thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.